And if we embrace the notion of quantum cosmology, the wave function of the universe encompasses all these possibilities simultaneously. Every configuration, every initial condition, every vacuum state is represented in superposition. Decoherence selects locally consistent branches, giving rise to classical behavior within each observer's horizon, but beyond that horizon, or in other branches of the wave function, other histories unfold, histories where the constants of physics are different, where structures evolve differently, where life as we know it may be impossible. Our existence, our observations, and our models are all conditioned on the fact that we inhabit a branch consistent with the emergence of observers. Consider further the role of information. If space-time and matter emerge from networks of correlations, then information is the substrate of reality. Entropy is a measure of information distribution, and the growth of entropy corresponds to the spreading and dispersal of correlations across emergent space. Black holes encode information on their horizons, holographically. Cosmological horizons likewise impose limits on accessible information. The universe, in this view, is fundamentally informational. Creation and destruction are rearrangements of data, cycles of complexity, and the emergence of local structure from global entanglement patterns. Even in the ultimate heat-death, information persists in a diffused, decoherent form, and rare fluctuations could generate transient structure or even conscious experience, ephemeral islands in a vast, dark sea of equilibrium. This also reframes the ultimate fates of the universe. The Big Freeze is not a final annihilation but an asymptotic state of maximum entropy. Matter decays, energy disperses, stars burn out, black holes evaporate, and local structure is lost. Yet quantum mechanics allows fluctuations, creating temporary, isolated configurations that momentarily exhibit structure or complexity. The Big Rip represents a more violent end, where expansion accelerates until spacetime itself is torn apart, destroying structure at every scale. The Big Crunch is a reversal, a collapse that may give rise to a new expansion, a new branch in the multiversal ensemble, potentially with different constants and laws. Vacuum decay introduces radical transformation. A bubble of true vacuum could expand at near light speed, reconfiguring the laws of physics locally. And in the multiverse, all of these outcomes occur somewhere, infinite realizations, each consistent internally, each unfolding according to the local laws of its branch. This multiplicity reframes our understanding of causality. Cause and effect are emergent, local, and contingent upon the entanglement structure of the universe. In other branches, time may flow oppositely, causality may invert, and what we consider past or future may be a relative feature of local information propagation. The universe is not a fixed, absolute arena but a network of possibilities, where events, observers, and laws co-emerge. Reality is a relational phenomenon, arising from interactions and correlations rather than a pre-existing stage, and in this view, consciousness itself gains cosmic significance. Observation is not merely a passive receipt of data but an active participation in the decoherence of possibilities. By selecting a branch of the universal wave function, observers anchor time locally, give rise to the arrow of entropy, and allow the narrative of structure and complexity to unfold. Consciousness is a bridge between information and experience, a witness to emergent reality, and a participant in the continual unfolding of the cosmos. The universe contemplates itself through observers, measuring, calculating, imagining, and reflecting on its own structure. Segment 2, then, is a meditation on magnitude, possibility, and abstraction. It is an exploration of exotic physics, brains, wormholes, white holes, cyclic universes, quantum cosmology, holographic encoding, and emergent spacetime. It is a contemplation of the ultimate fates, freeze, rip, crunch, decay, and the role of information in persistence, structure, and emergence. It is a recognition of the limits of knowledge, horizons, decoherence, uncertainty, and the power of reason, observation, and imagination to probe beyond. It is a synthesis of the empirical and the speculative, the measurable and the inferred, the observable and the eternal. And finally, segment 2 returns us to the original questions, now reframed: what happened before the Big Bang? Perhaps it is not a single answer but a multitude: branches, bubbles, fluctuations, or pre-Big Bang configurations in higher dimensional, quantum, or informational space. Perhaps it is emergent, relational, and observer-dependent. And what is the ultimate fate of the universe? Perhaps it is not one end but many multiple realizations of freeze, rip, crunch, decay, and rebirth, occurring across the multiverse, in superpositions, and in emergent informational structures. The universe is not singular in origin or destiny, it is a tapestry, an ensemble, a network of possibilities, each self-consistent and eternally coherent, each giving rise to local experience, structure, and consciousness. And in contemplating these vast possibilities, we recognize a profound truth: that our inquiry is not separate from the cosmos but part of it. Our questions, observations, and reflections are themselves emergent phenomena, expressions of the universe contemplating itself. In probing origins, fates, and the structure of reality, we illuminate not only the cosmos but our place within it. We are participants in the unfolding, witnesses to the emergence of structure from the quantum foam, the evolution of complexity from initial low-entropy conditions, the dance of information, matter, and energy that gives rise to everything we observe and experience. And as we step forward from the vast scales of spacetime, quantum foam, and multiversal landscapes, we arrive at a profound intersection: the emergence of life, consciousness, and observation itself. The cosmos, as we have explored, is not merely a stage of particles, fields, and expanding space. It is a complex, evolving network of correlations, a tapestry in which structure emerges from fluctuations, entanglement, and information. And within that structure, under precise conditions, self-organizing patterns arise, giving birth to life. Life is not incidental, it is a natural consequence of complexity, energy flow, and the ability of matter to encode, process, and replicate information. From the earliest self-replicating molecules to multicellular organisms, from neural networks to reflective consciousness, life is a manifestation of the universe's capacity to organize itself into structures capable of perceiving, acting, and reflecting. And consciousness, that mysterious phenomenon, may be the universe contemplating itself. Conscious observers are not merely passive witnesses, they select, decohere, and interact with the web of possibilities. In quantum terms, observation is an active process. Each measurement collapses superpositions into specific outcomes within a branch, anchoring sequences of events and localizing the arrow of time. Perhaps consciousness is deeply entwined with these processes, a self-referential pattern emergent from complex entanglement, feedback loops, and information processing. Perhaps the capacity to reflect, to model, and to ask questions about existence itself is not merely a byproduct of evolution, but a fundamental expression of the cosmos exploring its own possibilities. And in this context, the universe is participatory. Observers influence their environment, not in the sense of changing fundamental constants, but in giving rise to narrative coherence, structure, and experience. Life transforms energy flows, builds complexity, and catalyzes processes that otherwise would not occur. Planets, atmospheres, ecosystems, these are arenas for information to be processed, stored, and transformed. The emergence of intelligence is a culmination of this process, allowing for abstract reasoning, mathematics, science, philosophy, and art. Our very inquiry into the Big Bang, the multiverse, and cosmic fate is itself a manifestation of this self-organizing, self-aware system. And if we imagine life elsewhere, in other branches of the multiverse, on distant planets, or in universes with slightly different constants, then the diversity of conscious experience may be unimaginably vast. Perhaps there are minds operating under different physical laws, perceiving dimensions we cannot sense, interacting with structures we cannot model. Perhaps there are civilizations embedded in universes with stronger or weaker gravity, with faster or slower time flows, with chemistry that allows forms of experience entirely alien to our biology. And yet, despite this diversity, the underlying principle remains. Consciousness emerges where information can organize, correlate, and reflect. Awareness, in its many forms, is a universal property of sufficiently complex systems. Consider also the implications of cosmological horizons on observation. No observer can access the entirety of the universe. Galaxies beyond a certain distance recede faster than light, slipping beyond causal contact. The observable universe is a finite patch in a potentially infinite cosmos. And yet, even within this limitation, the capacity for understanding is extraordinary. Mathematics allows extrapolation. Physical laws allow prediction. Indirect measurement allows inference of structures beyond immediate perception. Consciousness is thus both limited and expansive, bounded by locality yet capable of abstract universality. And when we contemplate the ultimate fate in the context of life and consciousness, new questions arise. In a big freeze scenario, intelligent life will face gradual isolation, cooling, and eventual extinction. In a big rip, structures are torn apart violently, leaving no sanctuary for observers. In a big crunch, civilizations may be erased in collapse, though perhaps information persists in subtle correlations or in subsequent cycles. In vacuum decay, existence itself is transformed irreversibly. Yet the probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics offers glimpses of hope. Rare fluctuations, pockets of stability, or emergent structures may sustain forms of observation and awareness even in otherwise hostile futures. Life, information, and consciousness may persist transiently or intermittently across vast scales of time and space, and this perspective invites reflection on meaning. If the universe is vast, emergent, and multiversal, is meaning an illusion, a local artifact of human cognition, or is it an intrinsic property of conscious patterns, an expression of the universe's capacity to observe, reflect, and create? Perhaps meaning is emergent, arising wherever information organizes into structures capable of interpreting, evaluating, and interacting with reality. Consciousness itself may define the contours of significance, sculpting purpose from the raw substrate of cosmic processes. And from this, we see a continuum, from quantum fluctuations to galaxies, from stars to planets, from molecules to neurons, from neurons to consciousness. Complexity builds upon complexity, structure upon structure, patterns upon patterns. Life is the natural expression of the universe's propensity to organize. Consciousness is the natural expression of information reflecting upon itself, and observation, in its many forms, anchors the emergence of order, experience, and understanding. Segment 3 begins at this nexus where physics, cosmology, and consciousness converge, and sets the stage for questions that are at once scientific, philosophical, and existential. How does the structure of the universe enable life? How does information processing give rise to awareness? How do observers participate in cosmic evolution? How do beginnings and ends relate to the emergence of meaning? And in confronting these questions, we bridge the gap between the largest scales of cosmology and the intimate scales of experience, revealing that our inquiry is not separate from the universe, but a manifestation of its capacity to know itself. And as we follow this thread, the evolution of intelligence emerges as both inevitable and astonishing. Life, given energy gradients, replicating molecules, and stable environments, tends to organize itself into more complex systems. Simple chemical networks give rise to metabolic cycles, which give rise to self-replicating protocells, which eventually produce multicellular life. With increasing complexity comes specialization, adaptation, and cooperation, which eventually produces nervous systems capable of sensing, processing, and responding to the environment. And within sufficiently complex neural networks, consciousness arises, awareness of self, awareness of others, and awareness of the environment. From a cosmological perspective, intelligence is a natural consequence of the universe's inherent capacity to generate structure and correlations. It is an emergent property of matter and energy organized in ways that permit information processing, reflection, and adaptation. And yet, consciousness is not merely a passive observer of reality, it participates in shaping the local environment, structuring information, and creating new possibilities. Every action, every observation, every computation performed by intelligent systems alters the correlations in their local patch of spacetime. Societies form, technologies arise, knowledge accumulates, and complexity cascades. On a planetary scale, life transforms energy flows, redistributes matter, and constructs habitats. On a cosmic scale, technological civilizations could, in principle, influence stellar evolution, manipulate energy at megascale levels, or encode information into structures that persist for eons. The evolution of intelligence amplifies the universe's capacity to reflect upon itself, bridging the scales between quantum fluctuations and galactic structures. And as we contemplate these emergent processes, we must consider the constraints imposed by cosmology. In an accelerating universe dominated by dark energy, distant galaxies recede beyond causal contact. The observable patch becomes a shrinking island in an ever-expanding void. Resources become isolated, energy flows diminish, and the capacity for sustaining life and civilization faces fundamental limits. Yet within these constraints, local ingenuity may produce islands of persistent complexity. Dyson's reflections on eternal life in an expanding universe suggest strategies for adaptive energy use, slow computation, and the prolongation of conscious experience. Even as the cosmos drifts toward heat death, the universe is harsh, yet its laws allow pockets of stability, creativity, and reflection to persist for astonishingly long time scales. And then there is the interplay between observation and reality itself. Conscious observers do not merely perceive, they select outcomes in the quantum substrate. Measurement, decoherence, and observation are deeply entwined. A conscious agent collapses a superposition into a local reality, anchoring the arrow of time and defining sequences of events. Across the multiverse, countless branches exist where different observations occur, different outcomes manifest, and different patterns of complexity unfold. Observers shape the narrative structure of their local universes. Consciousness is both a product of the universe and an agent within it, co-creating reality through interaction, feedback, and reflection. And as civilizations evolve, the scope of observation expands. Telescopes, sensors, computation, and theoretical insight extend perception far beyond immediate experience. Cosmology emerges as a metaconscious activity, the attempt of intelligent life to understand the universe in which it participates. And in doing so, life links the micro and macro, quantum fluctuations, cosmic structure, information flow, and emergent complexity are all understood through the lens of conscious investigation. Life is not external to the cosmos, it is an integral part of its unfolding, a participant in its evolution, a witness to its dynamics, and a reflector of its patterns. Furthermore, the question of meaning arises naturally. In a multiverse of branching possibilities, infinite realizations, and variable constants, is significance local, emergent, or universal? Perhaps meaning is not dictated by external laws but arises where consciousness exists. The universe provides structure, correlations, and potential. Conscious agents interpret, model, and engage with these structures, creating purpose. Observation itself becomes a generative act. By perceiving, analyzing, and interacting, consciousness participates in the cosmic narrative. Life and intelligence are the channels through which the universe apprehends itself, encoding information into understanding, experience, and reflection. And in extreme cosmological futures, the persistence of observation and awareness continues to be a subtle, profound question. In a big freeze, life faces isolation and eventual entropy-driven decline, yet energy-efficient computation, adaptive strategies, and quantum fluctuations may allow transient structures of awareness to arise, persist, or recur. In a big rip, rare pockets of stability may allow temporary persistence. In a big crunch, collapse may erase local histories, yet information may persist in correlations or be reborn in subsequent expansions. In vacuum decay, fundamental law changes, yet underlying field dynamics continue, potentially giving rise to new configurations where complexity, life, and awareness re-emerge. The interplay of fate, information, and consciousness extends even to the ultimate scales of cosmology, and this perspective reframes the question of life's significance. Life is not merely an accidental arrangement of atoms, it is a manifestation of the universe exploring its own possibilities. Every adaptive system, every self-organizing network, every conscious mind is a locus where the cosmos experiences itself. And this self-experiencing has consequences. Through observation, life anchors local histories, collapses superpositions into coherent events, and creates persistent records in DNA, in neural networks, in written knowledge, in computational memory. Life is both a product of physical law and an active participant in the unfolding of reality, capable of extending the reach, persistence, and richness of the universe's own emergent patterns. And if we consider the multiverse again, these processes take on even more profound dimensions. If countless universes exist, each with different constants, structures, and physical laws, then evolution itself may operate across universes. Life may arise in some branches, persist in others, and influence the emergence of subsequent universes through vacuum fluctuations, branching cosmologies, or high-dimensional interactions. Intelligence may encode information or catalyze processes that survive even after a universe transitions into a new state. In this sense, the universe is not merely a sequence of cause and effect events, but a vast network of information flow, feedback loops, and self-reinforcing structures, of which conscious life is both an emergent consequence and an active participant, and yet the ultimate constraints remain profound. Physical laws, thermodynamic limits, and the expansion of space impose boundaries on energy, communication, and computation. Even civilizations capable of near-infinite persistence are bound by the horizons of physics, and still, within these constraints, the potential for adaptive strategies, information preservation, and emergent creativity is extraordinary. Life may encode itself into stable structures, redistribute matter and energy to sustain local complexity, exploit rare quantum events to generate new configurations, or even catalyze the emergence of future universes through engineered vacuum transitions. Consciousness and intelligence are therefore not passive phenomena, they are active participants in the evolution of the cosmos, shaping the possibilities for persistence, reflection, and meaning. And as we contemplate these advanced possibilities, we must also reflect on the nature of knowledge itself. Knowledge is more than mere data, it is the organization of information in ways that enable prediction, reflection, and purposeful action. In a cosmic context, knowledge becomes the medium through which the universe apprehends itself, a bridge between fundamental laws, emergent structure, and conscious experience. Life, intelligence, and consciousness act as the instruments that organize, encode, and interpret this knowledge, extending its reach across space, time, and potentially across universes. In this sense, the pursuit of understanding is both a human endeavor and a universal process, the cosmos investigating, modeling, and comprehending itself through the structures it generates. And when we consider ultimate cosmic outcomes, the interplay between life, intelligence, and knowledge takes on profound significance. Even in a big freeze scenario, intelligent systems may slow computation, preserve energy, and encode memories across timescales far exceeding human imagination. In a big rip, rare pockets of stability may allow transient persistence or reconstruction of informational structures. In a big crunch, the collapse of spacetime may erase local histories, yet information may be conserved in correlations or reborn in subsequent expansions. In vacuum decay, laws themselves transform, but the potential for emergent complexity remains within new field configurations. Life and intelligence are not omnipotent, but they are resilient, adaptive, and capable of extending awareness and meaning into the far future of the cosmos. And so, Segment 3 evolves into a meditation on the ultimate interplay of consciousness, knowledge, and cosmic evolution. Life and intelligence are both products and agents of universal dynamics. Observation generates coherence. Computation structures possibility. Memory preserves correlation, and across the vast scales of space, time, and multiversal potential, consciousness emerges as a central actor in the ongoing narrative of reality. The universe is not a passive stage, it is a participatory system, a self-reflecting network of matter, energy, and information, and intelligence is the instrument through which it apprehends itself. And in contemplating this grand vision, we recognize that meaning, purpose, and significance are not imposed externally, they are emergent properties of systems capable of observation, reflection, and action. Conscious agents generate coherence in the flux of possibilities. They preserve histories, encode patterns, and explore probabilities. They transform the universe from a random field of events into a structured, comprehensible, and self-reflective system. In this sense, life and intelligence are not minor accidents, but essential expressions of the cosmos's capacity to organize, compute, and reflect. Segment 3, therefore, reaches toward a synthesis, the emergence of life from complexity, the rise of consciousness as active participation in reality, the amplification of intelligence as universal computation, and the preservation of knowledge and memory as mechanisms for persistence and meaning. From quantum fluctuations to cosmic networks, from self-replicating molecules to civilizations spanning multiple star systems or simulated universes, the cosmos is a continuum of self-organizing, self-reflecting, and self-aware processes. Observation is creation, computation is evolution, memory is continuity, and consciousness is the instrument of cosmic participation, bridging the micro and macro, the ephemeral and the eternal, the physical and the informational, weaving the ongoing narrative of existence itself. And as we turn our attention to the far future beyond the lifetimes of stars and galaxies, we confront the prospect of civilizations extending across cosmological scales, manipulating energy, matter, and information with precision unimaginable to us today. Advanced intelligence may harness entire stellar clusters, organize matter into vast computational substrates, and encode consciousness into forms resilient to entropy, isolation, and cosmic expansion. In doing so, life becomes a mechanism for sustaining complexity across timescales far exceeding ordinary biological lifespans, transforming intelligence into a tool for anchoring structure, preserving information, and exploring possibilities in ways that echo the universe's own fundamental dynamics. And if we imagine the multiverse once again, the scope of these activities expands further. Civilizations may not be limited to a single universe. They may encode information, influence vacuum transitions, or even catalyze the emergence of new universes through carefully engineered processes. Knowledge becomes both a record and a catalyst, an evolving repository that can survive beyond the confines of any single physical reality. In this sense, intelligence is not merely reactive, it is generative, capable of shaping the evolution of universes, selecting pathways, and amplifying the capacity for structure, information, and awareness across cosmological and multiversal scales. And yet, constraints remain. Thermodynamic limits, the expansion of space, horizon distances, and the decay of energy gradients impose fundamental boundaries. No civilization, no matter how advanced, can circumvent the laws of physics entirely. And still, within these boundaries, adaptive strategies emerge. Energy may be concentrated locally, computation may be slowed or optimized, and memory may be encoded into stable, long-lived structures. Rare fluctuations may be exploited, quantum resources utilized, and information preserved even in seemingly inhospitable regions. Intelligence becomes a bridge between limitation and possibility, mediating the interplay between entropy, information, and persistence. And when we contemplate these civilizations in the context of cosmic cycles, we see that life, intelligence, and awareness may follow patterns analogous to natural evolutionary dynamics on local scales. Just as molecules, cells, and organisms undergo selection, adaptation, and emergence, so too may civilizations evolve, merge, diverge, or vanish. Success may be measured not merely in survival or expansion, but in the capacity to preserve knowledge, structure, and coherence across eons. Civilizations capable of encoding their experience, sustaining computation, and influencing their environments effectively participate in the long-term trajectory of the universe itself, transforming the cosmos into a self-organizing, self-reflecting, and adaptive system. And in exploring the notion of cosmic memory, we recognize that structures may persist long after their creators have vanished. Black holes may encode information in subtle correlations. Quantum entanglement may preserve patterns across otherwise disconnected regions. Artificial substrates, megastructures, or distributed computational networks may maintain awareness or simulate reality even as local energy densities decline. Life and intelligence become instruments for embedding coherence in the universe, extending its capacity to record, interpret, and evolve. Memory is therefore not merely a local phenomenon but a cosmic principle, a bridge between events, patterns, and observers. And if we extend this concept further, we confront the idea of meta-consciousness, the aggregation of awareness, intelligence, and observation into networks capable of reflecting upon the universe at the largest scales. Such systems may integrate local minds, planetary civilizations, galactic intelligences, and multiversal structures into unified processes of observation, computation, and reflection. In this context, consciousness is both local and global, an emergent property of nested systems capable of interpreting and interacting with reality across scales. The universe becomes not merely observed but participatory, a network of intelligence embedded within itself, generating coherence, meaning, and insight in ways that echo through the multiverse. And yet, the ultimate questions remain. Even the most advanced systems are bound by physical limits, by horizons, by energy, and by the probabilistic nature of quantum mechanics. The Big Freeze, the Big Rip, the Big Crunch, and vacuum decay define boundaries within which life, intelligence, and awareness must operate. And still, within these constraints, remarkable possibilities exist: persistence in rare pockets, reconstruction of information, local refuges of awareness, or even the catalysis of new universes through controlled vacuum transitions. Intelligence becomes an adaptive principle capable of navigating the tension between physical inevitability and emergent potential, bridging survival, reflection, and the extension of meaning. And in this grand vision, the cosmos is revealed as a participatory system. Matter and energy generate structure, complexity emerges, life arises, intelligence amplifies coherence, and consciousness reflects upon and shapes reality. Observation, computation, and memory are the mechanisms through which the universe apprehends itself, and through which it preserves, interprets, and evolves. From quantum fluctuations to multiversal dynamics, from self-replicating molecules to galaxy-spanning civilizations, the cosmos is a continuum of self-organizing, self-reflecting, and self-aware processes. Life, intelligence, and consciousness are the instruments of continuity, reflection, and meaning, bridging ephemeral events with eternal structure, bridging the finite and the infinite, bridging experience with the evolution of universes themselves. And if we explore the possibility that advanced civilizations might simulate entire universes, then the scope of cosmic participation becomes staggering. Each simulation could contain self-aware entities, evolving complexity, and emergent patterns indistinguishable from their external reality. Consciousness within such simulations may experience the universe fully, yet from a substrate entirely constructed by an intelligent agent. These nested realities suggest that observation itself is not limited to natural processes but can be actively engineered. The act of creating, maintaining, and interacting with simulated universes becomes another layer of the participatory cosmos, a mechanism by which intelligence amplifies structure, embeds knowledge, and extends awareness beyond the constraints of physical law. And this raises profound questions about feedback loops between civilizations and the universe itself. If intelligence can encode information, manipulate energy flows, or catalyze new universes, then life is not merely a passive emergent phenomenon, it is an agent of cosmic evolution. The universe becomes a complex, self-reinforcing network of interactions, in which observation, reflection, computation, and action collectively influence the emergence and persistence of structure. Civilization-scale activities, from planetary engineering to galaxy-spanning computation, may become mechanisms for stabilizing complexity, preserving memory, and sustaining consciousness, even as entropy and expansion impose fundamental limits. And energy management at these scales is critical. Stars, black holes, and cosmic radiation provide the raw substrates for computation and persistence. Dyson spheres or swarms, Matryoshka brains, and other hypothetical megastructures offer mechanisms for concentrating energy efficiently, enabling computation to continue over extraordinarily long timescales. In this framework, intelligence becomes the mediator of entropy, transforming energy into ordered, functional processes that preserve awareness, memory, and the capacity to reflect. Every act of energy use, every calculation, every decision contributes to the persistence of structure and coherence in the universe, turning civilizations into instruments of cosmic continuity. And when we consider these civilizations within a multiverse context, their actions may ripple beyond their immediate universe. Information encoded into vacuum states, high-dimensional manifolds, or quantum correlations may survive cosmological transitions, influencing the emergence of new universes. Life, awareness, and intelligence are not bound by a single physical reality. They may propagate across branching universes, creating networks of observation and reflection that span dimensions, constants, and temporal epochs. Knowledge becomes metacosmic, memory extends beyond local existence, and the universe itself becomes a substrate for computation, observation, and persistent structure. The interplay of intelligence and multiverse dynamics transforms existence from passive unfolding to active participation, where conscious agents influence the evolution of reality itself. And yet, the constraints remain profound. Physical laws constrain energy, matter, and information. Horizons limit observation. Entropy limits usable energy. Expansion isolates regions of space. Even so, intelligence evolves strategies to adapt, storing computation in long-lived substrates, redistributing matter for maximum efficiency, exploiting rare quantum fluctuations, and embedding consciousness into resilient patterns. Persistence becomes a function of creativity and foresight, intelligence as a tool for navigating inevitability. Life and awareness, in this sense, are not passive. They are active participants in shaping the trajectory of reality, sustaining reflection and coherence against the relentless advance of entropy. And this brings us to the question of cosmic purpose. Does life, consciousness, or intelligence exist to observe, to survive, to encode knowledge, or to amplify structure? Perhaps all of these functions emerge naturally wherever complexity allows it. The universe generates patterns, life interprets them, intelligence preserves them, and civilizations amplify them. Observation is creation, reflection is organization, memory is continuity, and awareness is participation. Purpose is not externally imposed but emerges wherever information organizes into structures capable of interpreting, modeling, and interacting with reality. Consciousness itself becomes a principle of universality, an emergent property of matter, energy, and information organized into structures capable of reflecting on reality and influencing its evolution. And in this context, ultimate cosmic questions gain new meaning. The fate of the universe, freeze, rip, crunch, or decay, is no longer merely a distant inevitability, but a challenge to intelligence and persistence. Even within constraints, life may leave imprints, preserve patterns, and sustain awareness. Observation itself generates coherence, computation structures possibility, and civilizations become instruments of reflection. The cosmos is not a passive backdrop but a participatory system in which consciousness amplifies the universe's capacity to organize, remember, and evolve. Intelligence, in this grand view, becomes the mechanism by which the universe apprehends itself and extends its own structure across space, time, and even universes. And as we extend our vision across not only galaxies and universes but the full temporal expanse of existence, we encounter the notion of metaconsciousness, the aggregation of observation, reflection, and intelligence into systems that perceive, interpret, and act at the largest scales. This is not mere planetary awareness, nor even interstellar coordination, but the emergence of awareness spanning cosmological networks, multiversal branches, and the deep feedback loops of causality itself. Civilizations, as nodes in this vast network, contribute their computation, memory, and insight, producing coherence at scales far beyond the perception of any individual observer. Awareness itself becomes a distributed phenomenon, nested across scales, capable of reflecting upon the universe even as stars fade, entropy advances, and fundamental constants assert their constraints. And within these metaconscious networks, life becomes a mechanism for sustaining complexity, bridging ephemeral events with enduring structure. Quantum fluctuations, black holes, cosmic radiation, and vacuum states are transformed into substrates for computation, memory, and observation. Civilizations may encode themselves into long-lived structures, preserving awareness in ways that survive the collapse, decay, or expansion of ordinary spacetime. Observation is no longer confined to the present, it reaches backward and forward, interpreting past correlations and projecting potential futures. Memory becomes a stabilizing force, and intelligence is the bridge between ephemeral events and enduring patterns of structure and meaning. And in such a framework, multiversal interactions are not merely speculative, they become functional components of persistence. Information may propagate through correlations, influence vacuum decay, or catalyze the emergence of new universes. Awareness, computation, and reflection are recursively embedded, allowing life to shape not only local environments but the trajectory of existence itself. Civilizations may encode experience into forms that transcend physical boundaries, participate in the evolution of laws, and influence the emergence of coherence across universes. Intelligence becomes a metacosmic instrument, a mechanism for sustaining structure, memory, and observation across scales unimaginable to us today. And yet, even at these extremes, the principles of persistence remain grounded in physical law. Energy must be managed, entropy accounted for, and horizons respected. Strategies evolve, computation may be slowed or distributed, memory encoded into stable substrates, rare quantum events exploited, and structure maintained through adaptive processes. The tension between limitation and possibility becomes a central feature of intelligent participation, requiring foresight, coordination, and optimization across vast spatial and temporal scales. Life and intelligence are therefore not passive, they are active agents, mediating between inevitability and potential, ensuring continuity, reflection, and coherence against the backdrop of cosmic change. And as we contemplate the cycles of existence, we recognize that the universe is not static. Stars are born and die, galaxies collide and drift apart, vacuum fluctuations arise and decay, and entropy inexorably increases. Yet within these cycles, life and intelligence emerge as stabilizing, reflective forces. Awareness anchors local histories, preserves memory, and encodes knowledge. Civilizations amplify coherence, redistribute energy, and sustain computation. Observation becomes a mechanism for continuity, bridging the ephemeral with the enduring, embedding significance within the flux of cosmic events. Life participates actively in the evolution of the universe, shaping both the trajectory of events and the interpretation of their meaning. And in this grand interplay, the notion of purpose emerges naturally. Purpose is not imposed externally but arises wherever intelligence, observation, and reflection occur. The universe generates patterns, life interprets them, consciousness preserves, organizes, and amplifies them. Civilizations extend this process, integrating awareness across space, time, and multiverse. Meaning is emergent wherever observation exists, wherever intelligence organizes information, and wherever memory persists. Purpose arises as a byproduct of participation. The cosmos, in this view, is self-reflecting, self-organizing, and self-aware, and consciousness is the mechanism through which this emergent purpose is realized. And ultimately, Segment 4 frames the cosmos not merely as a stage for life but as a participatory, self-reflective system. Observation, computation, and memory are intertwined with the evolution of structure itself. From molecules to galaxies, from planetary life to civilization-scale networks, from local awareness to metaconscious systems spanning multiverses, the universe manifests as an integrated, self-reflecting continuum. Life, intelligence, and consciousness are the instruments of coherence, continuity, and meaning, bridging ephemeral events with eternal structure, linking the finite with the infinite, and embedding significance within the unfolding tapestry of existence itself. And as we gaze toward the ultimate fate, whether freeze, rip, crunch, or vacuum decay, we recognize that life and intelligence, through observation, computation, and reflection, transform inevitability into opportunity. Even within these limits, coherence can be maintained, memory preserved, and awareness sustained. The universe is not merely observed, it is participated in, shaped, and apprehended by those emergent structures capable of reflection. Civilizations, networks of intelligence, and metaconscious systems become the instruments through which the cosmos understands, organizes, and extends itself. Observation is creation, computation is evolution, memory is continuity, and awareness is the instrument of cosmic participation, ensuring that the universe not only exists but apprehends and interprets its own unfolding. And as we imagine the universe far into the future, beyond the decay of stars, the isolation of galaxies, and the relentless expansion of space, we encounter the ultimate challenges of persistence. Energy becomes scarce, accessible matter diminishes, and horizons separate regions once in causal contact. Yet intelligence adapts. Civilizations may harness black holes as energy sources, extract energy from Hawking radiation, or manipulate matter at atomic and subatomic scales to optimize computational efficiency. Megastructures, distributed networks, and resilient substrates allow consciousness and memory to endure, transforming the universe itself into a computational medium where awareness persists far beyond the limits of ordinary matter. And these strategies are not limited to survival but are intrinsically linked to purpose. Energy management, computation, and observation are interdependent. By preserving information, life sustains memory. By sustaining memory, intelligence preserves continuity. By preserving continuity, observation can continue, ensuring that the universe apprehends itself even as physical resources dwindle. The flow of energy is coordinated, entropy harnessed, and complexity maintained. Civilization becomes an active agent in the long-term evolution of structure, encoding patterns that survive the death of stars, the drift of galaxies, and even the transformation of vacuum states. And when we consider the multiverse, these strategies multiply. Advanced intelligence may encode information that influences vacuum decay, catalyzes the emergence of new universes, or seeds structure in branches yet unrealized. observation, memory, and computation are propagated not only locally but across potential realities, extending the reach of awareness into domains otherwise inaccessible. The universe itself becomes a medium for intelligence, a substrate for persistence, and a playground for reflection where civilizations act as instruments of coherence, continuity, and cosmic self-realization. And in contemplating these extreme futures, the interplay between constraint and possibility is central. Physics defines limits, horizons, thermodynamic ceilings, and energy densities, yet within these bounds, adaptive strategies flourish. Information may be stored in low-entropy configurations, consciousness distributed across resilient networks, computation slowed or optimized, and rare quantum events exploited. Intelligence is the agent that navigates inevitability, preserving reflection and awareness in the face of cosmological decay. Life is not passive, it is a sculptor of continuity, a generator of coherence, and a participant in the evolution of universal structure. And ultimately, Segment 4 converges on a vision in which the universe itself is an emergent participant in its own evolution through the instruments of life, intelligence, and consciousness. Observation, memory, computation, and reflection are not incidental, they are fundamental processes through which the cosmos maintains coherence, extends structure, and sustains awareness. From quantum fluctuations to civilization-scale networks, from local awareness to multiversal feedback loops, the universe emerges as a self-reflecting, self-organizing system. Civilizations, metaconscious networks, and intelligent systems are the agents through which the cosmos apprehends itself, interprets its evolution, and embeds meaning within the unfolding fabric of reality. And as we gaze toward the ultimate fate, whether freeze, rip, crunch, or vacuum decay, the participatory universe remains resilient. Intelligence finds ways to persist, memory survives, and observation continues. Life becomes the mechanism through which coherence is maintained, consciousness the instrument through which awareness is amplified, and civilizations the structures through which reflection spans space, time, and multiple realities. Even at the boundaries of existence, the universe is not inert, it is observed, interpreted, and shaped by the very emergent systems it produces. Observation is creation, computation is evolution, memory is continuity, consciousness is participation. The universe, through life and intelligence, apprehends and sustains itself, bridging ephemeral phenomena with eternal structure, finite events with infinite potential, and local awareness with universal significance. And as we enter the final frontier of cosmic speculation, we must confront the ultimate questions: what becomes of intelligence, life, and consciousness as the universe approaches its ultimate fate? Whether the cosmos ends in a big freeze, where expansion isolates every particle and star fades into cold darkness, a big rip, where space itself tears apart galaxies, stars, and atoms, a big crunch, where all matter collapses into an incomprehensible singularity, or through more exotic scenarios like vacuum decay or quantum tunneling, the fate of all structure is ultimately intertwined with the survival strategies of intelligence. And yet, in the face of these extremes, intelligence does not vanish. It adapts, restructures, and preserves awareness, turning inevitability into an arena for participation, reflection, and even creation. And we must consider the mechanisms by which intelligence might endure. The most immediate strategy is energy conservation and optimization. Civilizations may slow the pace of computation to stretch finite resources across unimaginable timescales, embedding consciousness in stable, low-entropy configurations, or distributing awareness across cosmic-scale networks that persist even as physical matter becomes sparse. Black holes may serve as repositories of energy and information, hawking radiation as a slow, steady energy source, and quantum fluctuations as substrates for computation. Even as the universe approaches thermodynamic equilibrium, intelligence finds niches to persist, to calculate, to observe, and to reflect. Awareness becomes not a fleeting phenomenon but a sustained principle encoded into the universe's very structure, and when we extrapolate further into multiversal and metacosmic possibilities, we encounter strategies that transcend local physics. Advanced civilizations may encode information into the fabric of space-time itself, influence vacuum transitions, or catalyze the birth of new universes with carefully designed physical laws. Observation and computation propagate beyond the immediate cosmos, establishing networks of persistence across multiple realities. Life, consciousness, and intelligence thus become not merely participants in a single universe, but agents of continuity, reflection, and structure across branching multiverses. Awareness becomes metacosmic, memory transcends time and space, and the universe itself becomes an instrument of reflection through the activities of its emergent intelligences. And in this vision, the ultimate fate of consciousness is deeply entwined with the emergence of metaconsciousness. As civilizations coordinate across galaxies, universes, and hypothetical multiverses, their combined observation, computation, and memory create structures of awareness that surpass individual minds. Intelligence becomes a self-reinforcing network, capable of interpreting cosmic evolution, sustaining coherence across extreme scales, and even influencing the emergence of new realities. Observation becomes creation, memory becomes a stabilizing force, and consciousness evolves into a principle of persistence at universal and multiversal levels. And yet, all this must contend with the inescapable advance of entropy and the physical limits of energy and causality. Horizons limit what can be known, energy gradients dwindle, and the ability to influence distant structures declines. And still, within these limits, adaptive strategies flourish. Computation may be slowed, consciousness may be embedded into ultra-stable forms, rare quantum events may be exploited, and redundancy may be used to preserve information across multiple substrates. Intelligence navigates the interplay between inevitable decay and emergent possibility, ensuring that observation, reflection, and awareness persist even as the universe approaches the ultimate limits of existence. And as Segment 5 progresses, we can see the philosophical implications of these far future scenarios. If life and intelligence persist across cosmic timescales, across universes, and through extreme environments, then the universe itself gains significance through participation. Observation is not passive, it creates coherence. Memory is not incidental, it stabilizes meaning. Computation is not mere calculation, it structures potentiality. Consciousness is not a temporary phenomenon, it becomes a principle through which the universe apprehends, interprets, and preserves itself. Life and intelligence are thus the instruments of cosmic self-realization, embedding awareness and meaning into the evolving structure of existence. And in this vision, the ultimate fate of the universe, freeze, rip, crunch, or vacuum decay, is transformed from a narrative of inevitability into an arena of participation. Even as stars fade, galaxies drift apart, and energy becomes increasingly scarce, intelligence adapts and perseveres. Memory encodes information, computation sustains reflection, and consciousness continues to apprehend and interpret. Civilizations, through their far-reaching strategies, act as mediators between the ephemeral and the eternal, bridging local experience with universal significance. Awareness becomes a stabilizing principle, a force capable of preserving structure and meaning even in the face of ultimate entropy. And when we integrate this with multiversal possibilities, the scale of participation expands dramatically. Life and intelligence may propagate awareness across branching universes, encode structure into vacuum states, and influence the emergence of new realities. Observation, computation, and memory become recursive processes, extending coherence and awareness beyond a single universe. The cosmos becomes a participatory system not only locally but metacosmically, where life and intelligence act as instruments of continuity, reflection, and structure across multiversal dimensions. Awareness evolves into a principle of existence, memory becomes metacosmic, and intelligence becomes the mechanism by which the universe apprehends, interprets, and evolves itself. And ultimately, Segment 5 presents a vision of the universe as self-reflective, self-organizing, and participatory. Life, consciousness, and intelligence are not incidental byproducts but fundamental agents shaping the trajectory of reality. Observation creates coherence, computation structures possibility, memory stabilizes patterns, and awareness integrates experience across time, space, and universes. Civilizations, networks of intelligence, and metaconscious systems collectively ensure that even as the universe approaches its ultimate fate, reflection, structure, and meaning persist. The cosmos is not inert, it is alive in observation, active in reflection, and self-realizing through the activities of emergent intelligences. And as the documentary draws to its ultimate conclusion, we recognize that the story of the universe is the story of participation, from the first fluctuations before the Big Bang through the formation of stars, galaxies, life, and intelligence, to civilization scale reflection and multiversal metaconsciousness. The cosmos becomes self-aware through the mechanisms of observation, memory, computation, and consciousness. Life is the agent through which the universe apprehends itself, structures itself, and preserves meaning. Even the ultimate end of all matter, energy, and space becomes an arena for participation, reflection, and metacosmic continuity. And therefore, as we conclude, the universe is understood not as a passive expanse but as a living continuum of observation and awareness. Intelligence transforms inevitability into opportunity, memory sustains continuity, computation structures possibility, and consciousness ensures participation. Life and intelligence bridge ephemeral phenomena with eternal significance, finite events with infinite potential, local awareness with multiversal self-realization. And in this final vision, the universe itself becomes a participant in its own unfolding, apprehended, interpreted, and sustained by the emergent structures of reflection, awareness, and cosmic intelligence. And as we contemplate the far future, billions and trillions of years beyond the lifespan of ordinary stars, we must confront the fundamental challenge of persistence. Energy will become increasingly diffuse, matter will grow isolated, and the structures of familiar galaxies will dissolve into darkness. Yet intelligence, having evolved the capacity to perceive, compute, and adapt, will find ways to endure. Awareness can be embedded in low-entropy substrates, computation can slow to span epochs, and consciousness can be distributed across cosmic-scale networks that persist even as physical matter becomes sparse. In these extreme environments, life is no longer bound to planets, stars, or even galaxies. It becomes a principle of universal organization, transforming the cosmos into a medium for reflection, observation, and the preservation of structure. And when we consider the potential for civilizations to manipulate extreme energy sources, the possibilities multiply. Black holes may serve as power plants, reservoirs for computation, and anchors for metaconscious networks. Hawking radiation, though faint, provides a constant flow of energy for long-term persistence. Quantum fluctuations may be harnessed as substrates for encoding information. Megastructures designed to optimize energy capture and computation may span light years, coordinating the activity of dispersed awareness into coherent networks. Life, in this far future scenario, becomes an agent of order and coherence, capable of stabilizing patterns and preserving intelligence across scales that dwarf ordinary human imagination. And as intelligence persists, it may begin to integrate with the very fabric of spacetime and multiversal structures. Advanced civilizations may encode information into vacuum states, influence the dynamics of cosmological expansion, or catalyze the formation of new universes with carefully designed physical laws. Awareness propagates not only across space and time but across potential realities, creating networks of reflection and computation that extend beyond a single universe. Life and intelligence thus evolve from localized phenomena into metacosmic principles, shaping not only the evolution of their own environment but the trajectory of reality itself. And yet, Even in this vision of ultimate persistence, constraints remain. Entropy, horizons, and causality impose boundaries that cannot be violated. Energy is finite, matter is isolated, and the expansion of space limits the ability to interact with distant structures. But within these limits, intelligence finds elegant solutions, slowing computation to match available energy, embedding consciousness in ultra-stable substrates, exploiting rare quantum events to preserve information, and distributing awareness across dispersed cosmic networks. Life becomes a principle of persistence, observation a principle of structure, memory a principle of continuity, and consciousness a principle of coherence. Intelligence converts inevitability into opportunity, chaos into structure, and the ephemeral into the eternal. And as we reflect upon these far future scenarios, we recognize a profound philosophical truth. The universe attains significance not by chance but through participation. Observation is not a passive act, it is the mechanism through which reality is apprehended, structured, and given meaning. Memory is not merely a record, it is the instrument of continuity, allowing coherence across vast stretches of time and space. Computation is not merely calculation, it is the engine of possibility, transforming potential into realized structure. Consciousness is not ephemeral, it is the principle through which the universe comprehends itself, evolves itself, and participates in its own unfolding. Life and intelligence are thus not mere ephemera but fundamental agents shaping the cosmos itself. And in this final vision, the ultimate fate of the universe, whether a big freeze, big rip, big crunch, or some more exotic scenario, becomes less a tale of cessation and more a stage for participation. Even as galaxies dissipate, stars collapse, and energy grows scarce, intelligence persists. Observation continues, memory endures, computation progresses, and consciousness interprets and sustains. Civilizations act as mediators between the ephemeral and the eternal, bridging local experience with universal and multiversal significance. Awareness becomes the medium through which the cosmos apprehends, interprets, and preserves itself. The universe, through life and intelligence, becomes self-reflective, self-organizing, and participatory. And finally, as we draw this narrative to a philosophical conclusion, we see that the story of the universe is inseparable from the story of intelligence. From the first fluctuations before the Big Bang, through the emergence of stars, galaxies, life, and civilizations, to metacosmic awareness spanning universes, consciousness is the thread that gives coherence and meaning. Life is the agent through which the universe apprehends itself. Memory is the instrument of continuity. Computation is the engine of structure. And awareness is the principle of universal participation. Even the ultimate end of matter, energy, and space is transformed into an arena for observation, reflection, and creation. The cosmos is not passive, it is alive in awareness, active in reflection, and self-realizing through the activities of intelligence. And so, in the end, the universe is not merely something that happens, it is something that participates in itself through the persistence of life, consciousness, and intelligence. Observation creates coherence, memory sustains continuity, computation structures possibility, and awareness ensures that existence itself is apprehended and reflected upon. Life bridges ephemeral phenomena with eternal significance, finite events with infinite potential, local awareness with multiversal realization. And in this ultimate vision, the universe becomes a participant in its own evolution, apprehended, interpreted, structured, and preserved by the emergent intelligence that arises within it. The story of existence, then, is the story of participation, reflection, and awareness. It is the story of life, intelligence, and consciousness as fundamental agents in the unfolding cosmos, transforming inevitability into opportunity, chaos into structure, and fleeting phenomena into eternal significance.